Hi everyone, today I'm going to be talking about building wellness. I think that this is pretty relevant for starting up a new year. The first thing I'd like to do is really challenge our idea of wellness. I think oftentimes we associate wellness with self-care, and self-care being something that's a bit selfish, something that we have to find time for, going to the spa, something like that. And really what I want to do is challenge that idea and see wellness and self-care as something that is for the purposes of building up our resiliency and for the purposes of building up our self-preservation. It's important to consider wellness as something that is multidimensional. It is not a single construct, but rather it is something that is broad and encompasses multiple facets of our lives. So what I have here is 8 different categories for wellness rather than it being a single item. We have intellectual wellness, so that can look like broadening our ideas and experiences, diversity in our thinking, financial wellness. If you remember, last month I spoke about grief and how one of the contributors to really exacerbating the experience of grief can be that financial pressure. So in this case, what we're talking about is being able to find financial freedom, financial wellness. We have emotional wellness. This is being able to find those positive emotions, kind of shutting off our negative thinking, being able to look at, what are some of those moments of gratitude? What are some of those moments, something that went well in our days? And then we have cultural wellness. This speaks to our values, our beliefs, our ethics, our spirituality, how we define ourselves. We have physical wellness. I think this is something that people are, it's kind of an easier one to grasp, and I think what many people associate with wellness as well. And this speaks to our eating, sleeping, physical ability. I'm going to come back to occupational wellness. We have environmental wellness. This speaks to our relationship with our surroundings. And then we have social wellness, and this speaks to the quality of our relationships and being able to build up positive relationships. Going back to occupational wellness, I think that this is so important. And as I move forward in this presentation, I kind of talk more about, how kind of looking at, how often we spend our days in one area of our life. And I think that this is an important one to speak to because it's so important that we find value and meaning in our work, right? We spend much of our day, much of our lives in our work. It's work and home life. And I feel like it's incredibly unsettling if one of those areas doesn't work, right? And often that can kind of bleed into another area of our life. So really finding meaning in our work, our attitudes about our work, how we feel when we're at work. This is looking at the benefits of wellness, and I broke it down into 3 categories. One is on an individual level, next is work life, and then our relationships. So how does this practice of wellness benefit us in these 3 categories? First, we have individual, and some of the benefits of practicing wellness daily is increased energy, better focus, less stress, more resiliency, both physically and mentally. There's been studies to show that when we practice wellness, there are less incidents of like sickness, that people tend to feel stronger. When we look at our work life, we have better morale, better teamwork and social networks, increased productivity, reduced absenteeism, higher job satisfaction, and stronger engagement. When we look at our relationships, it helps build empathy, strengthens relationships, improves mental and physical health, improved communication, and it models healthy coping skills. I think that's one of the most important ones, is really, in my opinion, is looking at how when we practice wellness, we're practicing and modeling healthy skills to the people around us. So for the students that we work with, for the children at home, if we have kids at home, it's incredibly important to show that when we are struck with adversity, what are some of the things that how do we take care of ourselves? How do we manage those feelings? What I have here for you is signs to take a break. I really liked this, and I thought this was a great visual. I think there's something powerful with checklists to be able to note that, if I'm, checking 4 out of the 6 of these, that's, pretty stark. It's kind of jarring to see that. And it kind of an indicator of, maybe my functioning isn't as strong as I'd like it to be right now. If there was a slide you were going to print out, I would say maybe print this one out. I think that it's a good representation of maybe, again, like capturing how someone is functioning in that moment. So this speaks to how we've been feeling, if we're more irritable, more impatient than typical, if there's been changes in our eating and sleeping habits, experiencing more fatigue, less energy, getting more sick than often. I think that's such an important one, to notice what's happening in our bodies. And I think that often we kind of push those things aside, but our body definitely speaks to what is going on with us, mentally, emotionally, what's been going on in our day. And so paying attention to those cues. Been feeling less motivated, less wanting to accomplish goals. And then if we've been feeling more overwhelmed and have been neglecting our basic needs, especially as I think leaders, educators, parents, right? The responsibility is to focus on something else, to help something else grow. And I think that often we can, in those moments, really neglect our own needs. So reminding ourselves that it's so important to take care of ourselves so that we can also take care of other people and function at our best. So how do we start? I think that it's important to remember that wellness has to be a choice. It really has to be something that we are mindful of and purposeful in engaging in. I suggest taking really small steps, make a change in each dimension. And I know that can sound overwhelming to say, well, there was 8 dimensions. Making one change in 8 of those sounds overwhelming, especially when you have so many other things going on. But I'm going to actually go back, and I want to give the example. So let's say it's something, if we're just targeting intellectual wellness, listening to a podcast. You can listen to a podcast while taking a walk outside. So you're not only listening to that podcast and you're kind of supporting that intellectual wellness, but you're also going outside and getting that physical wellness. And you're also outside, so you have that environmental wellness. Also, the thing that you can do then is perhaps even, one sec. You can talk to somebody about that podcast. And in that case, as you're walking outside, again, you're hitting that physical wellness, that environmental wellness, and now you have that social wellness. So, it doesn't have to be the change of multiple areas, doing multiple different things, but really it could be like, having one change that kind of hits all of those dimensions. And then I also have here, how to increase serotonin naturally. I have a couple of examples. Again, serotonin is that feel-good, happy neurotransmitter. And I think these are some really great examples of things that you can do to kind of support that wellness piece. And so we have, getting some sun exposure, listening to music. I think that's such a powerful one. Practicing gratitude. If you recall, we talked about gratitude in November. So I highly recommend going back and maybe taking a look at that, getting movement, going for a walk again. I have a couple of examples here of how to practice wellness. The first is belly breaths, so taking 3 deep belly breaths. This is such an important one. I feel like it's, for one, I really like it because it's accessible, right? You can do this anywhere. It doesn't cost you anything. It's super easy. Oftentimes I say I do this in the car when I get frustrated, and I think it's probably better than yelling at somebody. But it's, you know, being mindful, taking those deep breaths. And then I think the important piece again is that really focusing on that sensation. So having that mindfulness and focusing on our breaths, focusing on the feeling of our bellies moving up. A way to practice this would be, you know, placing one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly, and feeling our bellies move up and down. The shake your hands out, I really like this one for kids. I think that it's super helpful. What I recommend with this one is, what I like about this with kids is being able to just kind of move some of that tension out. When I was running groups, this is one of the ones that I really enjoyed. When I started to notice that kids would get kind of squirrely, then what I would do is, you know, have a movement break, and it would be kind of like shaking it out. So this is a good one to burn some of that adrenaline. Again, any tension that somebody is feeling. And so what I recommend is just kind of having your hands and then just kind of shaking it out. Unclench your jaw. I really enjoyed this one. I don't typically do this, but I found this, as I was reading through this, I found this one to be super helpful, and just kind of noticing that, like, oh yeah, like as I drop my jaw, like, gosh, I noticed the tightness, and I noticed yeah, just how long I had been, you know, holding all of that tension. So I think this is a great one of just being able to notice when we have tension in our bodies. You know, this is something that you can do just in this meeting now, or in your day, just kind of spending a second and noticing, as you drop your jaw, kind of that release of tension. And then, you know, being mindful of where else do we carry that tension. I think, you know, in our shoulders or wherever, and trying to be focused and relaxing our body. Finally, I have orienting our self to our space. This one is a great grounding technique. It really is about noticing our bodies and getting us back into the present moment. So this one, it's, you know, sitting comfortably in your chair, feeling your back on the chair, feeling your feet on the floor, being able to mindfully kind of scan the room for about a minute and noticing what's around you. I hope these have been helpful for you. I hope these are easy things that you're able to kind of, you know, show kids or your whomever else. But yeah, thank you.